Hi everybody, this is Becca from Watch Becca Create, and today we're going to make a DIY traveler's notebook. It is something I really enjoy doing. I like just making my own and being able to size it how I want it to fit and not having to live with things that I don't like. So I set this up exactly how I like it, and it works for me, and I hope it works for you. Okay, so these are the supplies you're going to need. I have two sizes of elastic. I have a thicker elastic for the closure band, and I have a thinner elastic for the stringing of the actual elastic that holds the books in. I like the thinner elastic for that because it doesn't bulk up my books as much. So this is just thin elastic from Walmart. And this roll of thicker elastic I got on Amazon many years ago, and I still have it and I still use it. But it is thicker, so I use this for the closure elastics. And then I have an X-Acto knife to cut down the sides. I have used scissors before, and that does work, but the X-Acto knife just makes it a little bit easier. You can also use a box cutter or scissors if you want. The last couple things, a crocodile. I use this for punching the holes for my strings in for the closures. I use this because it makes small holes, and they're not huge, and they're not too small, and they're not too big, and I can fit the hole punch of the crocodile in the leather as far as I need to. I don't go an inch in, I go a little bit shorter than that. So this works perfectly. This is kind of pricey. The last thing is the leather. So this is the leather I get. I have gone to like Tandy Leather and bought big sheets of leather. I have bought leather off Amazon. This is leather that I really actually very much enjoy. I really love the leather from Michaels. This sheet was $16, I think, and you can use a 25% off coupon. I don't know if that's always available, but it was when I bought it. That is the last item. So what we're going to do is I'm going to take off this. I'm going to take off this piece of cardboard here, and it is stapled in. So if you wanted to make an A5 size traveler's notebook, it might be kind of hard because this is a letter size piece of leather, so it's 8.5 by 11, so you wouldn't have any room for thickness, because once you get this, an A5 book would be exactly this size, so it would be too short on the sides for an A5 size. But for standard TN, this is perfect. So now we have to figure out what side we want to use for our front and what side we want to use for our back. And I'm thinking this will be my front and this will be my back. I like this size. It is perfect. It fits all the books that I want. I really like this size. I just want it in black. So what I'm going to do is I am going to take all of my books out. I'm going to set them up here. I'm going to take them all out, and I am going to lay this leather on top of the other leather, on the new leather, and I'm just going to cut it that way. If you don't have a TN that you like the size of like I do, you can either measure it to be the size that you want it to be. So that's our front. So we got this. Okay. So you can either measure it to be the size of like a standard tan from like Traveler's Company. You can look up what size their Traveler's notebooks are, and then just cut your leather down to that size. Or you can, I might be able to upload a template that is a piece of paper that is this size. You could just print that and lay it on top, and it would be this exact size as well. If you'd like that, I can do that. But you're just going to lay whatever you have down on top. And then you are going to cut the sides like I know I'm going to. I'm going to take a piece of cardboard and put it underneath this. There. I have cut through things too many times to not do that. So what you're going to do is, now that you have your leather on top of your new leather, where are the holes on this thing, by the way? Oh, we're going to keep them. Okay. So now that you have your leather, the size leather that you want on top of your new leather, you're just going to draw your X-Acto knife or your box cutter or even your scissors down this line and cut through the leather. And that is how you can cut down the leather to be the size that you want for your TN. So you're just going to cut. And you do have to put quite a bit of pressure on it because it is a pretty thick piece of leather. So we're just going to keep cutting. I think I'm going to continue cutting this, and then when I am done, I will come back. I will be right back. Okay, we're back. So we got the leather cut. So now we're down to we have our leather cut to the size that we want. So I'll put that there. So this is our leather all ready to go, looking spiffy. So what you're going to do is you're going to fold it in half like it's going to be when you have your books in it. Just kind of crease it, and you're looking for the middle mark of this. It doesn't have to be perfect. And then you're going to take your X-Acto knife, and you're just going to make a little cut right there. You're just trying to make it so that you can see the cut, like where that spot is on your thing, because you don't want to cut like this with your fingers right there. So you're just trying to make a little incision so you know where that is. So this is our middle mark. This is where our middle line is right here. So now we know where we need to put our holes on the top and bottom, and we know where we need to put our closure hole. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my X-Acto knife, and I'm going to find that cut, and I am going to poke my X-Acto knife through it. This is going to be a little rough because the leather is so thick, but you can do it. So there, that is my hole through the leather. If you want, you can go the other way as well and just kind of make it like that, but I found I don't really need that, so you can do what you want. So we've made the hole in the middle, so now we kind of know where our line is. So the reason why I like using the crocodile is because it has a small hole here and it has a large hole here. So I use the small hole for this, and I'm actually going to take, I have a skewer here. I'm going to take a skewer and I'm going to take a ruler, and I'm just going to kind of make a little mark. Just going to etch a little mark in there. There we go. Perfect. Alright, so now we know our exact middle. And then you can, the way I like to do this is I like to have it far enough down from the top where it's not going to be ripped out the top. And I like to have the holes far enough apart where they're not going to rip. The leather in between the two holes isn't going to rip in the middle. So like you have to have them spaced far enough apart and far enough away from this edge here. But the crocodile only goes an inch in. So you kind of have to play with it a little bit. And you also don't want it too far away from the top or you're going to be using way more elastic. So it's kind of playing a guessing game on where to place stuff until you kind of get the hang of it. Also, the reason why I don't punch a hole in where the closure elastic is this only goes an inch in. So I can't get it all the way in there. I used to have the big one, but I don't know where it is. So I have to just punch a hole with the X-Acto knife for the closure. So let's punch our holes. Okay, so I'm going to take my crocodile and I am going to punch an inch in. And on this line, I'm going to punch an inch in. And then I'm going to punch a little further back. There we go. Perfect. So now we have two holes here on this line. And then we're going to flip it over. And we're going to do the exact same thing on this end. Alright. So we're going to line up on this line and go an inch in and punch. And then we're going to go a little bit farther in between those two on the line and punch. There we go. Cool. But the crocodile makes punching leather very easy. I love that tool. So now we have our holes for the elastic to be strung for books, and we have our hole for the closure. So this is where the elastic comes in. So I like to string my books to have 4 strings. So that means that I am going to string my notebook with 4 strings instead of 2. So how you string this is you take your elastic and you go from the inside, you go to the top hole, you go in, and then you go in the bottom hole. If that actually went in. Let's see. Okay, it did. And this might be kind of hard to see because I'm doing a black TN with black elastic. I have a hole in the top that I've strung through, and then I went through the bottom hole. And so I have this string here. I'm going to take it through the bottom hole. And then I'm going to take it through the top hole. I'm going to pull a little bit more of this. And we'll adjust everything in the end. And then this is how normally in a normal traveler's notebook, you would take these 2 strings, tie them together, and that would be your strings for your TN. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to do the exact same system again, but I'm going to go through the already strung holes. So I'm going to go in the top hole, then I'm going to go in the hole below it. And some of this might be tricky because you have a smaller hole with more elastic going through it. So you just gotta kind of play it by ear. So then I went in through the top hole, in through that hole again. So I have a string here. So I'm going to go in this lower hole. I'm going to stick this in here. And I'm going to pull it through. And then I'm going to go through this top hole again. Okay, there we go. And that is how you get 4 strings on your traveler's notebook. So now we have this extra feed line, and we have this extra that we have to get rid of. Because we want this end to be right here to tie to this end. So now we gotta get rid of all this extra. I'm going to pause the camera for that, and it's just me reworking the strings until I get it. So it'll be just a minute, and I'll be right back. Okay, I'm back. I have the strings restrung, and I have this set up in the general vicinity that I want it to be in. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to take my scissors, I'm going to cut that off. I'm going to take this extra small elastic and I'm going to stick it over here. And then I am going to tie this together. And right now I only have 3 books, so this can be my extra string. But if you were putting this in a book, sometimes it's nice to make a smaller knot in case it's going to be stuck in a book or whatever. Okay, so now we need to do the closure. So we take the closure, we take our larger elastic, and what I do is I fold my traveler's notebook up how I would like it to be, and then I take the elastic and I make a little tail out of it, so there's a little bit of a tail, and then I wrap it all the way around, and then where it meets the end of that tail is where I'll cut. And honestly, it's better to have more than less. So, alright, so what we're going to do is we're going to put the ends together, and we're going to make a knot in this. We don't want too much of a tail on it, but we also want enough of a tail. Alright, so now we have a loop with the larger elastic. So what we're going to do is we're going to take this and we're going to feed it through this hole. Okay, so I've taken a paper clip and I've just kind of bent it. And what we're going to do is we're just going to feed this onto the paper clip. There we go. And then we're just going to feed this through this hole and hope that this works, because this is the trickiest part of this. There we go. There we go. Is it going to work? That is the main question here. Actually, you know what? I'm going to do it this way. Alright, there's that. Feed this through. Alright. Okay, there we go. Alright. And then, haha, we did it. Okay. Success. Alright, there we go. So there we go. We have a TN that is looking pretty good. I got a little spot right there. Sometimes you will get spots like that where you messed up cutting and you just take your scissors. There. Alright. Is it going to be perfect? No. But it still is going to look good. Okay. So there's that. So we have that all done. We have our elastic. We have our closures. We have all that. And so now let's put some books in. So this is my monthly yearly. And this is going to go in the last elastic. So we're going to use one of these back ones. We're going to put that book in. And then you just kind of adjust it to how you want it. And then you sit it there. Then I have my dailies. And this will go on this middle elastic that doesn't have the knot. And that will go there. And you just adjust to get it to where you want it. This goes on today, so I just put it in there. This is my notes notebook. I'm going to go for the other short inside elastic on this one and put that one in the front. There. There we go. That is how you make a traveler's notebook. One of the things that I really enjoy doing is rounding the corners on them. And what I do for that is I just take, I'm not even going to take the books out for this, because it's really simple. So what I do is I take my X-Acto knife and I just cut the corner of the page. Bang. That is all I do. I just cut the corner off to round it. Doesn't have to be exact, doesn't have to be perfect. You can just saw and it'll saw through the leather. There you go. And then I'm going to move my books and do the other side. I'm going to do this side. There we go. Boop, done. Alright. Now I've made a mess. So that is how I make my traveler's notebooks. I'm probably going to clean this edge up off camera in between when you see this in my next post on Facebook or on Instagram. But you can just adjust your books in the cover and see how you like them to fit. And then push them down, push them over. And then you have your elastic. If you like a fuller book, if you like more standard TN books, you can use the whole, you wouldn't have to cut any off. You could have an extra, you know, a little bit of width on there to add more books. So that's nice. But yeah, that's how you make a TN. If you have any questions or comments, leave them down below and I will talk to you guys later. Bye.